much for that very warm introduction. The problem with having your CV read is it breeds a lot of expectations. As you know well, you may be intelligent, but you are not necessarily a good speaker. It would be a gift coming from God if you can merge the two. I'll try not to bore you so that we can walk on to our glorious past as a faith. And what is its recent iteration in our time? So let me introduce my topic. We will be going to the events of the 1521, that's 16th century, and how it will impact our present life as church today. So, the approach will be historical pastoral, so it's not theological, no? But rather, we will ground ourselves to evidences so that our pastoral reflection would have more flesh. So, how shall we do that? I will have first an introduction. Secondly, situations and pastoral implications of today. I will present to you some situations and what is its meaning for us today. And then by way of conclusion, we will have a summary. Okay, so by way of introduction, the events in 1521 was a momentous event. It was an encounter of two worlds, Old Europe and Asia, specifically Southeast Asia, because that is where we belong. And this year, we celebrate the 500 years of that encounter. So I guess we have the right to revisit such encounter and see how did it change our people and our land. So, the expedition that came to us was financed by the Spanish crown. Okay, so it was a private enterprise. And the only priest accompanying that voyage is Father Pedro de Valderrama, who is a diocesan priest. Okay, so he's the only priest in that voyage. And succeeding expeditions later saw the missionaries coming to the Philippine shores in order to propagate the faith. Now remember, the mission was financed by the Spanish crown, and that is why it is called the royal patronage. It's like the Philippine government sending priests to other land, and those priests are employed as civil servants. Now you will understand why Rome is very adamant in opposing China establishing their own national churches. We already have experience in the past where governments were the ones who have a say in mission because they are financing them. And you have heard from Father telling us that the projects of the church were not realized because the mission is at the service of the government and not of the church. Okay, so why was it possible? Because the civil government and the church are intimately linked at that time. Remember that on the onset of our history, when we became strong, it was due to the patronage of Emperor Constantine. So the Constantinian model of church and state being together was prevalent even until the Middle Ages. And it was only recently that we divorced ourselves from each other. We have both our own independent spheres, the political and civil sphere, the religious sphere. And there is something that intersects in between. And what is the in-between? We serve the same people. So the Filipino citizen is at the same time also, majority of which are Catholics. So it is the people that is the common ground of these two institutions. Now, when did the divorce happen? It happened during the French Revolution. When finally the the revolution got rid of the churches, twining with the government. So from that time on, we now have a consciousness of the separation of the church and the state. Before, many are, they are opposed to that separation, especially the old guards. But I think it was very good. Why? Because of the separation, the church can now fully dedicate herself to the mandate of Christ. And the mandate is here. It dixit eius iuntes in mundum universum. Predicate evangelium omne creaturae. So, go out and proclaim the good news to all nations. And at the same time, the government now has refined our understanding of human rights. Okay? We have a good sense of what is human rights in the church, but it was the civil government that defined fully what human right is all about. So there was a lot of bad in the divorce, but something good came out from that. And our talk today will focus on the lessons we can gather from the events of the past that happened in 1521 and the way Christianity was rooted in our land. We will revisit the genius of the early evangelizers, and perhaps we can learn from them so that we can have a new way of evangelization, new way in terms of expression, but the aim will always be the same, and that is for the greater glory of God. So first, the situations and pastoral implications today. The voyage that Magellan undertook confirmed what was already known in the past. It was not a discovery. It was a rediscovery. Ancient people already knew that the earth is round, even though the prevailing idea of the time was that the earth is flat. That's why beyond Spain, you cannot go further because your ship will fall. So they have Gibraltar as the rock of Hercules, and that is the finis terrae. Afterwards, you will go down into the netherworld. That's why nobody wants to travel there. They are afraid. But recent findings have shown us that Egyptians, Phoenicians, the Vikings have reached America by crossing the Pacific. And therefore, there are some people who knew that the earth is round, although the prevailing sentiment of the time that the earth is flat. So Magellan, in risking falling into the abyss, sailed through the Pacific, and from the Pacific, he sailed through the Atlantic. From the Atlantic, he sailed into the Pacific Ocean. He rediscovered the Philippines via the eastern route, and not the traditional western route that was used during that time. So, one can travel to the east via the west because the earth is round. And this forged an exchange of science, economics, worldviews, and culture between the old world Europe, the new continents of the Americas, and then the recently, rediscovered country of Asia. So now, knowledge, economy, culture can go around. And mind you, we think that this so-called globalization happened only today. That's not true. It has always been happening since the very beginning. The problem with theoreticians is that they don't look to history. That's why they create a mental image that is not supported by history. I was arguing with our theologians that you are talking about globalization as if it's a new phenomena. That's not true. It has been happening since time immemorial because the ancient civilization of Egypt, they make beads, okay? And those beads are found in Indonesia, meaning that there was a lively trade from far Egypt down to Southeast Asia, and probably also the empire of China. And with the trade comes globalization, because the Greek language has to contend with Malayo-Polynesian. So what was their common language at that time? We really do not know. Okay, what was the English of the time? But that is globalization. Now, the other European countries who are restricted from going to Asia because the trade route was controlled by the Ottoman Turks and the Venetians. Now, the traditional trade is from Europe to go to the Cape of Good Hope of Africa, and then go to India, and then access Moluccos from India. So that was the traditional route. But it was controlled by the Ottoman Turks, Muslim, and the Venetian merchants. That's why Venice. Okay. Kaya nga, ang Venice ay napakayaman during that time. Bakit? Maliit lang siya na lugar sa Europe, kaya lang controlled nila ang trade and commerce. So, yung Spain, yung England, yung France, hindi makadaan doon. Kailangang maghanap ng panibagong daan. So the impetus of discovering the new world is economics, mga kapatid. It's not religion, but economics. They wanted to benefit sa yaman ng spice trade that can only be found in the Southeast Asia. Kaya dahil dito, pasasabi natin, yung unang learnings natin is that ang simbahan dapat hindi matakot to venture into the unknown, to go into the deep. Kasi walang mangyayaring makabagong ideya o discovery if we are only contented with what we have. If we are secure with what we have right now, at ayaw na nating mag-venture forth into the unknown. The world changed with the discovery of a new route papuntang Asia via the West. At dahil dito, ang mga bagay ay nagbago. Nagbago ang Spain, ang Europe nagbago. They discovered they are not the center of the universe. Nagbago ang Asia because they brought their knowledge and technology to us. So, daring is one hallmark of our faith. Huwag tayong mapanatag kung anong meron na tayo. There are a lot of things na pwedeng madiscover. Pangalawa, yung expedition ni Magellan po is made up of many nationalities. Hindi lamang sila puro Espanyol. Magellan himself is a Portuguese sa Portugal. At nakatatawa, nang present niya itong idea sa hari ng Portugal, hindi siya pinakinggan. Bakit? Because it's not your competence that matters most of the time. Let's admit it. It's who you know. Kung pare-pareho tayong magaling, lamang ang mas malapit sa nakatataas. Siyang ipopromote. Kahit pare-pareho tayong magagaling. Bakit? It's friendship that matters. Secondary ang competence. Tandaan nyo yan. No? So, be competent, but at the same time, forge relationship and alliances. Don't burn bridges. Kahit magkalaban kayo ngayon, bukas, magiging alay kayo. Away-away lang, but don't burn the bridge. Wag mong isumpa na hindi na ako makikipag-usap sa iyo ever. Bakit? Kinabukasan, kailangan mo siya, kailangan kanya. Okay, so who are the crew? The fleet is composed of Spaniards, and then Portuguese made up most of the sailors, but the voyage also included mariners from Greece, Sicily, England, France, Germany, and even North Africa. So, sa isang barko, iba-iba kayong nationality, you are bound to have disagreements later on. Simple things like food. Pag nakikipamuhay ka sa ibang kultura, you will have problem first with food. Some like it hot, some like it cold, okay? Some like it spicy, some like it bland. Yung iba ayaw ng sugar, ayaw ng salt. I live in a convent na maraming matanda. Wala kaming salt. So nanggagalaiti kaming mga gusto pang kumain ng masarap. But what can we do? Mamamatay yung aming matatanda pag puro may salt. So, ang diversity is a known fact in the world today. And what is surprising is, mayroong isang crew that comes from Southeast Asia. Ang pangalan ay si Enrique, personal na slave ni Magellan. So there is a rumor that perhaps alam ni Magellan na mayroong daan from the west to Southeast Asia dahil sinabihan siya ng kanyang slave na si Enrique. Enrique knew that there is a way from the Americas to Asia. Bakit? Napuntahan na yan noon pa ng mga Chinese ang Amerika. Kaya nagtaka sila ngayon, nakikita nila may artifacts, may mga Chinese characters na makikita sa US and other parts of the Americas. And it is now being proven na yung mga taong galing sa Taiwan, yung kanilang natives doon, na pumunta sa Philippines, of course, there are other migrations, no? Naghalo-halo sila dito, kaya nagkaroon tayo ng mga Aita, ng mga Igorot, ng mga Lowlanders. Naghalo-halo yung ating genetics. Itong mga tao ang pumunta rin sa Guam, sa mga islands in the Pacific, sa Hawaii, and then perhaps some of them also reached America and they intermarried with the Indians. Kasi DNA test supported some of these Indians have Asian heritages. So exciting. History is being rewritten now because we have more evidences. So if Enrique knew that there's a route from the Americas to Asia, he must have told Magellan, and Magellan was daring enough to prove it. That's why he undertook the voyage. So ngayon, kung si Magellan went with a multinational fleet, tapos sa isang barko na marami siyang problema, there were how many rebellions during that trip, no? So mahirap pa lang makipamuhay sa iba't ibang kultura. But our church lives in a world that is multicultural at saka intergenerational. And the church must find a way how to live in harmony within our diversity. Sa multicultural lang, no? Pilipino tayo, pero dito may Ilonggo, may Bisaya, may taga-North, may mga Bicolano, may Tagalog. Kahit Pilipino tayo, may pagkakaiba pa rin yung ating mga ways. Pangalawa, intergenerational. Mayroong mga baby boomers dito, yung mga old, no? Yung mga 60s above. Mayroong mga Generation X, yun yung aking grupo, no? May in between Generation X at saka yung baby boomers, tapos yung mga millennials at centennials. Magkakaiba po yung ating mindsets kahit tayo ay puro Pilipino. More and more, the church is becoming young. Alam nyo ang median age ng ating church? It's 24 for the males and almost 25 for females. Kasi yung mga babae, they live longer. Kaya ganon, no? Ang mga lalaki na mamatay ng mas maaga. 24, 25. And who are in the leadership position of the church? Yung mga 60s, yung mga 50s. What do they know about the desires of this 24 and 25? Kaya minsan may pag-aaway. That's why there is now a rise of lay-led Christian movements. Yan yung mga The Feast, yan yung mga Serviam, yan yung mga Elim community, yung marami pang iba. And these are led by the young people because they found out they could not live with a church that is already aging. Yung pamamaraan pang baby boomers, hindi para sa kanila. Kahit sa religious organizations, makikita mo, yung mga leaders, matatanda, nasa senior years, no? Mga seniors. Yung mga pumapasok, bata. Magkaiba na ang mindset. The young ones are not anymore afraid of authority. Hindi dahil sila ay mga bastos, but they were groomed, pinalaki ng parents who already know psychology. Hindi sila tinatakot. Hala ka, sige, magagalit si father, magagalit si sister. Hindi na ganun ang pagdidisiplina. So when they grow up, when they are in front of authority, hindi sila pareho nating takot. May alinlangan. And then we feel as if we are being disrespected. That's not true. That's just the way they are. Nang ako'y din ng college, no, yung office ko, bukas palagi yan. Hindi nakasara. Kasi millennials doesn't like barriers. Ayaw nila ng nag-isolate na leader. So binubuksan ko yung aking office, nakaharap ako sa door, doon ako nagko-computer. When I am absorbed in my work, maya-maya nakikita ko, may seminarista na sa likod ko, nakikitingin, tapos aakbayan ka, sabihin, anong ginagawa mo din? Hindi ko makatok, hindi nagsasabi, may I come in? The door is open, that's a sign of invitation. Hindi ka man lang nagpapasintabi, walang iyaka, si Dean naman, bukas yung ano mo, kung ayaw mong papasukin, hindi sana sinara mo. May point sila, no? Gusto kong magalit para bang wala kang respeto sa authority, but that's not their mindset. It's a different thing. Kaya ngayon, pag tatawakutin mo sila ng iyong authority, they don't care. They will find you irrational old person. And what will they do? Move on. Iwanan ka nila. Do you think they will be afraid to move on? No, they're not. They will move on. Kaya nga, if you look at the statistics of our marriages in the church, this just 30% of our faithful are going to marriage. Bakit? Ang asim-asim naman ng mga requirements kasi. Ang hirap-hirap. Yung mga magpapabaptize, pag malaki na ang bata, you need 4 certificates from 4 neighboring parishes. Pinahihirapan yung mga faithful. Do you think the millennials would do that? No. Hindi sila kagaya natin na resilient, magpila-pila at pupunta sa iba't ibang parokya. Because they can get information at the tip of their hand. That's why we're losing them big time. Kasal, ang dami-daming requirements. Hindi pa pwede yung civil certificate na siya ay single. Kailangan may marriage bans, etc., etc. Lalo na pag foreigner ang asawa. Kahit hindi magiging Katoliko, magsiseminar ng 1 month. Ano ba tayo? These people have only 3 weeks to spare. Magdidemand ka ng 1 month, tapos we are so righteous in saying that is the pastoral guidelines. Anong sinasabi nila? Naririnig ko minsan, pardon me, but bullshit your pastoral guidelines. Who cares? Magpapakasal tayo sa civil. That's why marriage are going down. Hindi pa natin nararamdaman, but it's going down because of so many structures that the young ones find irrational at the present time. So, we need to live in an intergenerational and multicultural society, the church must adapt itself. We could not insist on a technology that is appropriate in the past kasi noon, yung mga tao may time, walang traffic. Tapos, they are conditioned to wait. Ngayon mga bata mag-wait, they cannot. Everything is at the fingertips. And we must be able to ride with the times. Thirdly, on March 31 of the same year, Father Pedro de Valderrama, the Andalusian Capellan, from Andalusia siya, chaplain of the fleet, the one and only Catholic priest in Magellan's crew, celebrated the first Holy Mass in Limasawa. It was the first Mass celebrated in the Philippines. Kino-contest ngayon ng isang Agustinian. Mas early daw siya because they lost their way somewhere in the north. Then they found themselves sa Pangasinan, sa Lingayen. So, nagland daw doon ang boat and he celebrated the Mass there. Kasi pina-repair nila sa mga natives. Now, that's going to be interesting kasi pag na-prove na talagang doon yung first Mass, history will once again change. I'm sorry, Cebu, but you will see your privileged place as the land where the first Mass happened. But suffice it to say, ito ang mas historical. Although inaaway ng Butuan, but I saw a document written in 1658 by the Agustinian Recollects doon sa kanilang archives, where they categorically state that the first Mass was in Limasawa. Yun ang pinaka-oldest document that we have. So, in the face of an evidence, tapos yung sa Butuan kasi puro circumstantial evidences sila. We cannot accept that. No? There is a document stating it's in Limasawa. So the first transubstantiation of the bread and wine in the Philippines happened in Cebu. Okay? And it's possible because the church was daring enough to send one priest together with a crew. Remember, ang kanilang aim is not mission and evangelization, kaya nga isa lang siya, no? It's really to find a new route in order to partake of the rich trade ng spice. So it was a business enterprise after all. So, what is its, implication for us? Tayo na simbahan, we must learn how to collaborate again with non-religious entities, organizations, or private persons. Mayroon tayong takot nowadays, especially to partner with business enterprise. Maniwala kayo sa hindi, ang unang misyon ni San Pablo was financed by business people. And ang mga makabagong sekta ngayon, like the CFC, CCF, may malaki silang building dyan sa, dyan sa may tawag dito, malapit sa Bonifacio Global. Sino nag-finance niyan? It's Henry C. Jr. Nakuha nila. How did they do that? They studied St. Paul. St. Paul's journey was financed by business people. Si Lydia at saka yung kanyang husband and many others. And they patterned themselves. Kaya si Manny Pacquiao inagaw ng mga evangelical sa atin. And Manny Pacquiao gave them a lot of buildings. Ba't tayo hindi? Ba't tayo natatakot sa rich? Kasi in the 70s, we have a tradition of fighting the corrupt rich. Yung mga mang-aapi ng manggagawa. And that is true. But not all rich are bad. Or if they are bad, because we leave them. Ayaw nating makipag-usap sa kanila. So they become bad. What if we encourage our population to become rich, but Christian entrepreneurs? Ano kayang impact sa ating society? It would be great. Why? Pag Christian entrepreneurs, they will pay their workers good salaries. They will give them benefits and perks that will give them a good life. Their children can go to school, good school, no? Magkakaroon ng dignidad, and they in turn will become entrepreneurs. So we multiply blessings. Takot kasi yung simbahan pag sinabing pera. But remember, money is a good slave. Yung kalaban natin, tayo lang naman eh. Kung tayo na magkakapera, how can we manage it? So you manage yourself. That is your challenge. That you are able to maintain your Christian values, even if there are lots of money coming to you. But we must make money our slave in order to change the world. Let us not fight business people. Let us ally with them. Tapos, pag nangangailangan tayo ng pera, may papatayo, saan tayo nang hihingi? The poor helps a lot. That I know. No? Akala mo yung mga generous, yung rich, hindi. Itong mga poor na constant, little by little nang hihingi. That's statistically naman defensible. Kung 80% ang poor, 10 lang ang rich. Kahit yung isang rich magbigay ng 1,000,000, you have 30,000 poor. Kahit mag-pledge lang yan ng 100 a month, in a year, talo na nila ang 1,000,000 ng one-time, big-time na rich. No? So, it's true that the poor are, they are our preference. Okay? But we must not neglect forming this minority rich, because sometimes they get lost, they become immoral, not because they wanted it that way, but because we did not guide them. And if we guide them well, gagamitin nila ang kanilang pera to advance evangelization. I remember Claritians experience, no? Because we have the Institute of Consecrated Life in Asia. Maraming pumupunta doon coming from other parts of Asia. China, for example, no? Yung China, believe it or not, ang daming mayayaman na Catholic Christians. Hindi lang mayayaman, super, uber yaman. Yung mga karank nila C, ng mga Rason, ng mga Ayalas. Pero hindi sila mayabang kasi yung mga Chinese, ano pa rin yan, low profile. Ayaw nilang napapansin. One time, we went to a house in Guangdong. No? Mayroon siyang factory. Tapos, nagtaka kami, sa loob, lahat ng ini-employ niya, Catholic Chinese. At sa loob, may community of sisters na pinoprotektahan niya. Siya nagpapakain, siya lahat nagpo-provide. At may isang pari na naka-assign doon para may daily mass sa loob ng factory niya. And he is financing them all. Tapos nagtatanong siya, ano ba yung pwede kong maitulong sa ikla? No? Because he wants yung Chinese priest also to be educated. So yun, naglagay siya ng endowment fund for the scholarship of this Chinese priest. Yun ang tumulong sa amin kasi kung wala yun, bagsak yung institute, no? Because of the pandemic. We need not fear the rich, the business people. We must turn them into allies because they can do a lot of good because they have the money. Number 4, alam nyo ba, yung unang nag-preach sa bansa is Magellan. Hindi yung pari. He is a lay person. Nag-preach din yung pari, pero nagtatranslate si Enrique because he knows how to speak Malayo-Polynesian. Yan yung English ng Asia at the time. You must know how to speak Malayo-Polynesian. So yung ancestors natin, they know how to speak Malayo-Polynesian other than Tagalog, Bicolano, Ilonggo, Kapampangan. So, Magellan preached and he was very passionate. There was a record by Pigafetta and the record was in Italian. Okay? And he was just telling that when Magellan was preaching, napaka-passionate niya. No? He was so happy to transmit the faith. And he was encouraging de recusi per indurle alla fede. So he was telling the Filipinos who are about to convert to be enduring in their faith, na magpakatatag. So, what was that? It was the laity in action. The laity was an important part of the Philippine evangelization. So, anong implication sa ating life? Lay participation should now be a firm fixture in the life and mission of the church. Hindi na siya exception. It must be a way of life of the church. Kaya nga lalo na ngayong COVID, no? Who were manning the media? Di ba mga lay, mga bata? Kung wala sila, patay kami, no? Kasi kung mga matatanda ilalagay natin doon, they might have technical problems. No? They are not as agile as the young generation when it comes to technology. Tsaka malikhain sila. Wala kang budget for the spotlight. Di ba yun ginagamit sa movie? Gagawa sila ng improvisation. No? Sabihin ni Father, wala tayong budget eh. Ay, nako, mag-iisip sila ng paraan. And imagine the burden that was taken away from us, pastors, because they look at the technical side. So makaka-concentrate kami on what we do best. And that is to become the pastor, no, the cura animarum of the parish. So ngayon, huwag tayong matakot sa mga lay. They are partners. And most of the time, we now realize, hindi kami Superman. Dati kasi pag nagpari, all-knowing. Financial, architectural, management, siya lahat yan, marunong, kahit hindi. Now we realize, mas magaling ang lay. Yung nasa corporate world, mas alam nila yung management structure. Gamitin mo. It's not kawalan sa amin, no? Na para bang, ang baba ko naman, kasi hindi ako marunong yan. Hello? Hindi ka nagpari para maging manager lang. No? You have a mission that is more noble. No? The cure of the soul. Pwede mo namang ibahagi na yun sa iba. Yung finances, some people know better how to raise funds, how to manage funds. Use them. Some people are good in, ordering space. Marunong sila how to manage space. Use them. Then concentrate on what we do best. That is to proclaim Christ to others in our words and in our way of life. So lay people are now part of the evangelization efforts. By the virtue of our common baptism, we are all called by Christ to go out and proclaim the good news. Subsequent voyages to the Philippines brought different religious groups. Yung Big Four, no? The Franciscans, the Dominicans, the Recoletos, and then later on the Jesuits. Kaya wag kayong magtaka kung itong tatlo ang pinakamayamang religious organization in the Philippines. Why? Ikaw ba naman, 500 years ka na, 450 years ka na, kung hindi ka mayaman, ang bobo-bobo mo. Di ba? Yung binili niyang lupa na piso, 1 ektarya, ngayon is 100 million. So bakit mo kagagalitan sila? They didn't think that way before. They were just doing their job. It so happened that through time, their assets accumulated. Yung 1,000 pesos niya sa bangko ngayon is 100 million. Kasi nga, interest and investments. So wag natin silang i-criticize. It's a product of time. Dapat hangaan natin sila kasi napalago nila. Kung bumagsak, bobo sila, hindi sila magaling. And I don't think you cannot accuse religious of that of that sin. Magagaling ang religious. Even the sisters, no? The RVMs, yung mga nauna, they are okay. Why? Because of their solid financial management through the years. 300 years ang piso mo, ngayon ang laki-laki na, di ba? So the Big Four came to spread Christianity. And they employed, this will be our pinaka-meat, no? They employed strategies on how to evangelize the Filipinos. Because in little more than a century, 50 years nga lang, no? Isang generation, Philippines became almost Christianized, except for some pockets in Mindanao and in the hinterlands of the north that resisted the Spanish missionaries' effort of evangelization. There are a number of reasons why Spanish missionaries were successful in this attempt. Una is mass baptism. Okay? So, talagang binabaptize nila yung Filipinos, hindi dahil gusto nila ng maramihan. Because Filipinos follow the faith of their leaders. Kaya yung unang nililigawan ng misyonero, isang tao lang o isang pamilya lang, ang dato, ang mga maharlika sa kanilang lugar. You don't have to go out to spread influence. Focus, focus, focus. Sa present time, ang tawag natin sa mga taong ito are influencers. Diba? Sa media. Yung mga tipong may 100,000 followers, yung iba 1 million followers. Pag sinabi niya, how beautiful it is to be a Catholic, yung followers niyan, hahanap, what is Catholicism? Nai-influensyahan nila. Are we getting the influencers on our side? Mukhang hindi. Saan ang loyalty nila? Sa pera, economics. They monetize their influence. Bakit? Pinabayaan natin. We do not propose the Christ to them. Subukan natin. Baka pag na-propose natin to them who Christ is, they might proclaim it in their platform, sa FB, Twitter, WhatsApp, and any other media platform. And when they do that, I'm sure, mas marami pa silang mabibingwit kaysa kay Father na araw-araw naglalakad para mag-hi hello sa mga tao. Sila, they can reach where we could not reach. And so, nagkaroon ng mass baptism because the leader set the example. So, yung mga tao sumusunod. Kaya nga, ang problema ng mga misyonero, how to instill the Catholic faith to them. Sa sobrang dami nila at isa-dalawa lang ang pari, diyan ka bibilib how they are able to do it. And how are they able to do it? They proposed, next. They proposed a new form of living. Yung sunod na. The new form of living is all Filipinos scattered, kasi ang lawak-lawak ng lupain at ang bawat isa may 10 ektarya na lupain. Yung neighbor niya dun sa dulo. It still happens now in mission areas. When I was a novice in Zamboanga, umaakit kami sa bundok. Doon yung aming mission every Sunday. Papasok sa isang bahay, tatanungin, Kuya, pupunta kami sa neighbor mo, malapit lang ba? Ay, ang lapit lang, brother, doon. Pag minumuso, wag ka. 3-4 na kilometro yan. Doon lang. Hala, sabi ko, 30 minutes na tayong naglalakad, wala pa rin yung bahay. Kasi nga, 10 ektarya sa akin, 20 sa kanya, talagang magkakalayo-layo. What was the strategy of the Spaniards? Put the Filipino together in a reduction. And in the reduction, it's where the church and the munisipyo is. Tapos may plaza. Nakapaligid sa church and munisipyo ang mga prinsipalya, ang mayayaman. You go back to your town. Sinong nasa malapit sa plaza? Mayayaman. Yung mga poor sa gilid. That was the first exclusive village in the Philippines. Tapos tayong mga lesser mortals, naninirahan sa gillage. Hindi sa village. Sa gilid. Sa gillage. Okay? So they put them in a reduction where sun up to sundown, each hour has an evangelical bent. Pagising pa lang nila, magro-rosaryo na sila, magpuprosesyon. Tapos punta sa kanilang trabaho. Pagka noon time, yung bell, titigil sila, magpipray ng orasyon. Pag 6 p.m., ulit yung bell, uwi sila, magnonobena sa kanilang patron. So, the place was designed for sacred space and time. Kaya nga't, na-impart ng mga misyonero ang katisismo sa mga katutubo. Now, of course, understanding takes time. Kaya nga't kahit hanggang ngayon, no, may mga pagan ways. But at least the Filipino embraced Catholicism. Okay? Because of the system of the reduction. They literally reduced the space of the Filipinos so that they can be taught the rudiments of the faith, and then they can be formed according to the culture that the missionaries want. So ngayon, anong pastoral implication sa atin? We need to recreate Christian spaces where life is centered both on faith and dignified human existence. Huwag lang puro dasal. Atupagin mo rin yung pagkatao nila. Kaya nga't yung mga missioneros noon tinuruan silang magtanim ng peanuts, potatoes, yung galing sa Americas na crops, hindi hiyang sa atin, mga avocado, hindi kaya yan hiyang sa atin. No? It was imported. They were taught irrigation system. Yung mais was brought from Peru, papunta dito. Bakit? It's not only being Catholic, but also having a dignified Christian life. So we have to recreate that space to combat the business model of the gated communities where separation, pataasan ng kanilang mga magagandang bakod, or wala silang pakialaman. Tingnan mo sa condominium units. Magkakatabi kayo, hindi kayo nagkakakilanlan. No? Exclusivity, privilege, and sense of entitlement is propagated. So you can imagine if our church will also buy land to develop it into a gated community. Sabihin natin, ito yung ang village ni San Joseville. Okay. Tapos ang pinakasentro mo, simbahan, at saka, let's say, plaza, para sa matatandang magsumba-sumba, no? Pwede silang maglakad-lakad ng kanilang mga aso, doon yung mga seminars on entrepreneurship at iba pa. While at the same time, the church is the prominent siya na feature. Some of these developers are now conscious of this. Mas mabenta ang kanilang unit pag may simbahan. So anong ginagawa? Ino-offer sa mga religious. Tapos kaming mga Clarician na pakipot, inaayawan. We must be with the poor. Those were in the 80s. Ngayon, kinakagat nila yung siko nila. When they revisited, atin sana yung village na yan. Atin sana yung ganyan. Kinuha ng ibang religious communities. Ngayon, nga sila. Kasi, there is no space that we cannot penetrate. Tandaan nyo yan. Our God is greater than anyone else. Kaya nagtatawa ako minsan sa mga, wag kang maglalagay ng Buddha sa bahay mo kasi it invites evil. Hello? Kung matatag pananampalataya mo, kahit katabi mo yung demonyo, can he harm you? Of course not. Kaya saan naman takutin mo yung tao ng mga bagay-bagay na demonyo yan, ba't hindi mo na lang palakasin ang faith niya? Na kahit makitabi si Satanas sa kanya, hindi siya natitinag. Why? You cannot harm me, I have my faith. Yung mga ganyang approach, ginagawa natin yung mga tao na parang bata, dependent sa atin. Sa ating kakayahan, magpalayas ng demonyo, etc. It's a form of control. I'm not saying it's bad. No? I think we need a little dose of that. No? Healing sometimes means that we have to exercise the bad. Kasi totoo yan. Pero wag natin silang takutin. Pag tinakot natin sila, magiging isip bata. Ikaw palaging Father, tama ba itong gagawin ko? Mamamatay ka. Maraming pupunta sa'yo, mahaharas ka. Kasi they could not think for themselves, they become dependent on you. So kahit business, pwede nating pasukan yan. But let's bring the gospel values. Hindi yung values ni Villar sa Camela Homes, na pati yung mga palayan, bibilhin ng mura, tapos gagawing gated community na mahal. Let's do it the other way. Kagaya ng ginagawa ngayon ng mga millennials sa US, yung revolution of the stock market, kasi yung ginagawa pala ng mga gahaman na mayayaman, bibili sila ng stocks. Tapos, idadump nila, ibibenta nila. Kung 10,000 yung stocks nila, gagawin nilang 20,000 ipagbibili. So, syempre, bababa yung price. The problem is, hindi lang sila yung may stocks na yon. Meron pang ibang maliliit na tao, may 1,000 siya, may 500. Liliit ang value ng stocks nila kasi dinump ng mayaman at dinamihan ang kanyang pinagbebenta. Makikibenta na rin sila palugi. Pag nakikibenta sila, bibilhin ulit yun ng mayayaman at a lower price. Pagbalik sa kanya, gagawin niya ulit maliit yon, magiging malaki ang tubo niya. Ginagawa nila yan. So what do millennials do now? Pag nakikita nila ang ganyang practice is called dumping. Bibili sila ng stocks. Sabi ng isa, credit card ko yung pambayad ko sa aking bahay. Kasi yung perang ito, I will buy stocks. O, sinong sasama sa akin? Let's combat corporate greed. Itong mga millennials, yun ang gusto. No, may gagawin sa buhay. Marami sila ngayong gumawa niyan. Anong nangyari? Nalugi itong mga greedy investors. Yung mga kagaya ni Soros, na siyang dahilan bakit nagkaroon tayo ng economic slump down in the 90s. Yung mga Asian tigers, tinarget nila yung currency, kaya nag-slow down yung ating development. We could have been already second world. Nasa developing countries na tayo. If they did not do that, takot sila, yumaman ang Asia. Kasi gusto nila, magiging slave tayo forever. So we can combat corporate greed. Let us use our genius. We can create spaces. I know Cubao may pabahay sa kanilang mga tao. Yun nga lang, 50 years. Tapos babalik yung ownership sa kanila. Para bang, you can stay here, pero dapat mag-ipon ka so that you can buy your own house someday. That's good enough. We can push it further. We can create Christian spaces like the reduction so that we can dictate the life and rhythm that must be centered on the Word and the Eucharist. Yung pang-apat, yung attitude ng Spanish clergy, hindi nila tinuruan ng Espanyol ang buong kapuluan. That's why we maintain our language. They learned our language. Nag-dive sila. Yung sinasabi ni Pope Francis, smell like your flock. Kaya nga, yung Catechism ng Church, written by Saint Bellarmine, no? Doctrina Christiana, Bellarmine is a Jesuit, no? Very, very intellectual Jesuit. Ang produkto ng Council of Trent, no? Na-codify ang ating catechism. At translate nila ito into Tagalog. May Kapampangan, may Bisaya version later on. Diyos te Salve Maria. Translate nila into our language ng Aba Ginoong Maria. Okay, ang Ginoo is a sign of respect. It's not only for the male, no? So, Hail Mary, full of grace, no? Aba, Ginoong Maria. So it's already a translation into the culture of the Filipinos. So, inalam nila ang lingwahe ng kanilang flock. So let's go right into the pastoral implication. And I have one more and then we'll finish. Ngayon, mayroon tayong Bible na konyo. Yung Taglish, ang daming nakipag-away doon, no? Yung mga purists sa liturgy, I cannot use that in the Mass. Sinasagot ko, sino nagsabi sa yung gagamitin mo sa misa? Masyado kang filingero. Hindi yan gagamitin sa misa. It's for the new generation to read the Bible. Ba't ka nag-iinarte? Nagki-create ka ng senaryo na wala. Ha? Tapos, that's not according to our tradition. So sinasagot ko sila, by history, iho, hindi to mga pari, mga lay na mga defender. Sabi ko, iho, ang New Testament, pabalbal yan na Griego. It's koine. Hindi yan yung classical Greek. Yan ang Greek ng mga tao. Yung mga naririnig mo sa lansangan. So if the Word of God incarnated itself on a language of the poor, of the common people, bakit ka nang gagalaiti dito sa Conyo Bible na to? Hindi mo ba alam? Kasi Father, hindi siya tumigil ka, sabi ko. Ang language ni Jesus, Aramaic. He might have know a little Greek. I don't think he know Latin. That's the language of the intellect. Si Mama Mary, I tell you, hindi yan marunong mag-Latin. Tapos nag-iinarte kayo na yan ang lingwahe ng langit. Tumigil na kayo, sabi. They don't know what they are talking about, no? Sa history. Kahit itong mga communion by mouth or hand, no? Sabi ko, balikan nyo ng yung Last Supper. Pinasubo man ni Lord yung mga apostol ng bread, hindi kaya. He broke the bread and gave it to them. Hawak-hawak nila yung bread. O kung si Lord Jesus Christ saw it good, bakit kayo nag-iinarte na yung mga laity masama ang mga kamay, no? Hindi dapat nakahawak? Excuse me, sabi ko, alam mo lang. No? And besides, come to think of it, yung unang bread natin, hindi yung post-wafer na yan. Ha? That's a later tradition. Talagang bread. At ang bread natin noon, may libadura. Hindi yung unleavened bread ng mga Jew. Bakit? To tell the Jews, hindi kami copycat. So nilagyan lang nila ng libadura. Hindi kami copycat, may libadura yung aming bread. Pero the form of our Eucharist is really the Passover meal. So kung may libadura yun, it's like the pandesal. Pinahati-hati yan ng pari. Now tell me, do you think pinapasubo niya yung mga tao? Yung ancient church, ha? You feel yourself, do you feel comfortable? Matanda ka na, pinapasubuan kang pagkain ganon. Do you feel comfortable? May abhorrence ka. It's natural reaction. So, do you think ganon yung process ng pagpapakomunyo noon? Hindi. I'm talking about the ancient Christians. Now, later on, dinevelop nila na, wag yung mga laity, kasi may mga may mga abuses later on. Kaya pinagbawal na nilang tanggapin sa hands. No, yung ano. Okay, anyway, so we go back. No, so, we have to enter into the language of our flock kasi communication is one of the great vehicle of evangelization. Proficiency of language is a requirement so that we can preach Christ effectively to our target audience. Remember, the church median age now is 23 and 24. It's almost like centennials ang namamayagpag. We are a centennial church. When I'm talking centennial, I'm talking of the generations. Alam nyo ba yung mga generations naman, no? May baby boomers, mayroong, tawag dito, Generation X. Before the baby boomers, meron pa. Tapos Generation X, may Sennials, in between Generation X and Millennials, and then Centennials. Yung Centennials, ito ngayon yung mga age 16 up to 26. Age 16 to 26. Kasi yung baba ng Centennials are a new species of the human Homo sapiens, the Alpha generation. Ano tong Alpha generation? If the Centennials can have 4 screens, kaya nila. Millennials can have 3 screens. Generation X like me can have 2 screens. Yung mga tawag dito, yung mga higher na sumasakit ng ulo, no? 1 screen lang. Pag dalawa yan, sasakit ng ulo. Imagine mo, kung 4 screens ang kaya ng Centennials, tapos 1 screen ka magsalita sa kanila, maboboard mga yun. They will look for other things. Tapos sabihin, mag-google na lang ako kung sino magaling mag-homily. Diyan, lumabas si Father ganito, no? Kasi si Father kumakanta, sumasayaw, sumisigaw, may mga illustrations pa siya. They have choices now. Hindi lang ikaw ang pwede nilang puntahan. So you have to know, we must know their language. Now, pangit naman, nakagaya kong 50 anyos na, last March 3, that's 2 days ago. No? So you can greet me happy birthday later. Anyway, pangit naman na isang 50 anyos, mag-a-act out like a centennial. Di ba? Nakakababa naman ng dignidad ko yon. But I can ask allies, other people to help me. Please, I could not do this. Can you help me do that? So the way for evangelization now is teamwork. Hindi pwedeng mag-isa ka lang. Ask allies to help you out. If I don't know the language of the young, help me. What is your language? Awit. Father, awit. I'm teaching mga college. Kaya nalalaman ko yung mga bagong lingwahe nila. No? Tapos, arat. Arat na. Ibig sabihin, tara na, let's go. Hindi ko alam yan. So, yung aking mga lesson plans ngayon, it's still formal English, pero yung mga anecdotal, language ng bata. And it facilitated their learning. So, imagine if our homilies, ang anecdotes natin is in the language of the young. We can pull them back to the church. We just have to be daring. We just have to risk and go into the deep. Tapos ang sunod is yung adaptation. Magagaling yung mga Spanish missionaries noon. They adapt into the culture of the people. Ngayon, natatakot na tayong mag-adapt. It's like nagmisa si Father, na picturean, pinost, maraming nag-comment na mga bata to, pero mga traditionalist view. Yung gusto ng Latin masses, magagandang vestments, etc. Which are not bad. Latin is our patrimony. It's a culture of the church. We must value it. Beautiful vestments, nung bata ko, ayaw ko. Para akong si Maria Capra. No? Ngayong matanda ako, gustong-gusto ko. I don't know, it comes with the age. Pero, para kasing gumaganda ang liturgy, may dignity. Pag you are good dressed, well-dressed ka, no? Siguro it's a time when you do not proclaim yourself anymore, no? Medyo ka na, kampante ka na I'm not proclaiming myself, no? I am using this to enhance the liturgy. Sana, no? We really don't know the intent of the heart. Pero, nakita si Father, nagmimisa, naka-Mac Air. Ay, yan, yung notebook. Wala siyang dalang libro. Kasi yung mga libro, di ba, makakapal, bulky, etc. So, nagmimisa siya yung the notebook. Ang daming criticism naman. No? I'm not saying that they are wrong. No? I think may sense din naman sila. They want to preserve the culture, etc. Ang gusto ko lang is hindi sila kulong sa ganoong pag-iisip. So, sinasabihan ko sila, alam ba ninyo na nung unang panahon, ang binabasahan nila ay scroll. Scroll, hindi yung libro. Ang material is made of animal skin. Nagka-revolusyon when Gutenberg invented the typing press, yung printing press. Nagkaroon ng mga libro. Nagbago yung libro ng simbahan. Hindi na yari sa balat, kundi sa papel na. Kasi nga, ninakaw nila sa China ang technology. It's Chinese. Come on. European, mahilig magnakaw yan ng mga imbento ng Asians. No? So, naging libro tayo. Sabi ko, nagbago ang lahat through time. And the church adapted very well. Kung the in thing now is to have this notebook, bakit hindi natin pwedeng pasukan yan? Bakit natatakot tayo? Can we give it a try? Kasi baka sa next generation, they don't even know what a book looks like. Ang alam na lang nila, yung digital letters na nandoon sa notebook. So I said, can you just expand your mind and think about it? And for me, it's just about the debate of openness to new things. It's not who is right or who is wrong. No? So, adaptation must be our hallmark. Kasi, God adapted Himself to become a human being. Let's go now to the next slide. We must use the logic of the incarnation, the awesome power of the incarnation. When Christ became human, He embraced all that is human except sin. Yan yung kanyang self-emptying to become a human person. So kung human person si Jesus, everything material is good and holy. In its neutral state, it is not bad. Kahit yung shabu. If I have a shabu here, dito, it exists in time and space. Is it good or bad? It's not. It's neutral. Ang tao ang magdidetermine whether it become good or bad. Good, kasi kinuha ko, I destroyed it. So walang ibang matitempt. So it's good. Bad, kinuha ko, pinira-piraso at binenta para magkapera ako. Bad. So yung battleground ng evil, hindi yung gamit. It's the heart of the person. So it's not whether ang rosary mo ay evil. There was a time, no, na yung rosary daw, snake, hindi si Jesus Christ. Sabi ko naman, hello, bibili ka ng 5 pesos na rosary. It's badly, badly made. Cheap ka. So cheap ang nakuha mo. Tapos sasabihin mo, snake yan. Siyempre yung mukha ni Jesus Lord, butiki. Doon. Hindi yung very fine ang details. Kasi 5 pesos. Bili ka ng 100 pesos, ang ganda-ganda, no? Kitang-kita ang tingkad ng mukha ni Lord. It's not the things that is our enemy. It's our heart and how it decides. So yun yung ating paigtingin. Our capacity to resist what is bad and what is evil. So in short, as a summary siguro, no? Next slide please. We have to move forward with hope. We can chart the course of our future with hope kasi our faith is strong. We are still 80 or 81% Catholic. No? The reason bumaba from 88 or 90 is dumadami din ang Muslim. Kasi wala silang contraceptive. No? Na-infect na yung ating mind. Tsaka, yung mga evangelicals are growing strong. Kinakain nila Katoliko. Ba't hindi sila kumuha doon sa mga Muslim? Takot sila. Mga inggitera lang sila at inggitero sa atin na kanilang mga kuya at ate kasi we're older. Kaya tayong inaaway-away nila. Parang sibling rivalry lang yan. Inis sila sa panganay. Tapos tatanungin, ang dami kayo. Siyempre, nauna kami, 2,000 taon na kami, no? Eh kung nag-reverse kayo nauna, kayo na nadadami. So eat that. You don't have our history. So, Catholicism is strong. Even if you ask surveys sa mga Catholics ngayon, they still consider the church as one of their anchors in life. Malaki pa rin ang percentage. And we must not bungle that. No? Ang laki-laki ng tiwala nila sa atin, it's a great responsibility on our part. And so, I guess, we are heirs to a glorious tradition of transmitting the faith. So, what are our trajectories now? So we are renewed evangelization rooted in tradition, but is not afraid of new expressions. Okay? Reduction, gated communities, many things beside. A common task where all members of the church are active in its propagation, especially the lay people, respectful. Hindi na siya yung hari, hindi na siya yung marunong. Humble and simple. Thank you very much.